Now, the Eastern Cape is the latest province to be struck by the truck violence as a vehicle is torched in Motherwell. Over 20 trucks have been set alight since Sunday in KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, Limpopo and the Eastern Cape. Transport Portfolio Committee chairperson Mina Lesoma joins us now to discuss this further and interventions to the attack. Thank you very much, Mr. Lesoma, for your time here on eNCA. Obviously, I can imagine you welcomed the arrest of the 3 people in Mpumalanga last night, but that clearly hasn't brought us anywhere with reports of another truck being torched in the Eastern Cape.
No, definitely, and good afternoon, Cindy and the viewers. We really condemn the banning of or torching of trucks in Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and now, as you have just said, that it's spread to Eastern Cape. But we are at peace, a little bit at peace, that the police or the law enforcement agency are a cause in terms of apprehending the perpetrators. However, we must also register that it's quite disturbing in terms of the economy of the country, as well as that we are an African continental free trade area that promotes the trade relations, both regionally and continental players, and then it hinders that economic traffic flow of the goods in and out of the country.
All right, so when you meet with, different ministers, for instance, obviously this is a multi-stakeholder issue. It's not only transport, but it's also possibly the Department of Labour and obviously the Department of Police and now even the Department of Defence. What more is going to be done by government so that we don't find ourselves reacting after various trucks have been torched already?
Even yesterday, what I said on behalf of the committee is that I've already done that with the minister, and we said that we probably, if it needs to, we have a special meeting with the parliamentarians who does the oversight over the executive, that they need to tell us, since the plans that we have in terms of the mitigating factors are not giving us any value add, as it were. So if they can take us in their confidence to say what more needs to be done, and also in terms of our relationship with the African continent, is it damage, what needs to be done, and all those things, whether we need also, because it's not a regulation matter, it's an issue of what we've got in plans, we must implement it effectively so that it makes a difference. And one is aware that it is an alleged that before I joined this committee or this portfolio committee, that there was 2 years back or 3 years back an engagement with the truck seeking drivers, job seekers, as well as the truck owners. So what we will do, which I've done it already in communication with the Minister of Transport, is for them to have a special meeting to take us through that. If those issues that were raised in the commitment, have they been realized, and what are the blockages that we can jointly unblock them where it needs to be. But the plans, we will be at hard on them if the plans, they didn't implement them where they committed themselves as government. But also it takes other players as well, the truck owners, the community, and even those ones who are aggrieved, because for touching the same truck that you want to apply and be a driver of it and you ban it, it doesn't make logical sense, economically and otherwise it doesn't. So that anger, it needs to be directed somewhere in terms of coming with an amicable solution.
Will you have a conversation with your counterpart in the Joint Committee on Intelligence, maybe? Because that's where sometimes we are found wanting. I mean, even the investigations after the July unrest found that intelligence was nowhere.
What as I was saying, that the first call as a portfolio committee of transport is to convey or contact our minister. But as you are correctly saying, that is a security cluster matter. So we will go through application of proper channels in terms of convening the portfolio clusters, so that at least everybody's in one room, even the ministers also are in one room, so that we don't prolong in terms of engaging, but also to give sense of comfort to the South Africans that we are indeed equally worried about this culture or the behavior that is mushrooming. And you can see that in a way, allegedly coordinated and planned somewhere. And I'm sure those ones who have been apprehended, they will also give us light. And of course, the intelligence must be more on their toes in terms of preempting the patterns of these behaviors so that we can rescue this matter before it becomes the whole country.
And just lastly, earlier this week, we spoke to the spokesperson of the Transport Department, and he was saying that nobody can move until the Transport Department changes a certain act that, for instance, actually allows people rather to buy trucks here in South Africa, etc., but instead is being used as permits, for instance. This has to do with the quota that the Labour Department has been struggling with in terms of how many South Africans and foreign nationals companies, trucking companies can appoint, right? Will you be asking questions around that act? How far are the amendments, etc.? Because he was explaining that unless that act changes to make things more stringent in terms of whether you're licensed or you're permitted to work in South Africa, that is going to be what changes or what assists the Labour Department as well.
No, it's really, as you might aware, as you are correctly saying, that discussions or engagement is before Parliament, and the Portfolio Committee of Labour is seized with that matter. However, what we'll be also engaging on as an interim gap measure is to say, we can say the problem, is there anything while also what then the legislation or the bill is pending? What interim measures that we can do without also undermining some of the laws that governs our country? And I think this one it needs a special attention. For me, then those are the things that how do we strike a balance while also we're pursuing the legislation? But there are other, legal routes that we can take so that all of us we get binded in terms of responding to this matter. Because the other issues the issues of categorizing the scarce skills also, it needs to be discussed. Like, for example, if you take the trucks, if the truck comes from, let's say, Namibia, for argument's sake, and the truck is owned by Namibians, so obviously the driver will be from Namibia, but to drive through South Africa, so that's another thing, but vice versa from South Africa to Namibia. So where do you then harmonize that cross-border issues and all those things? It's a debate that we need to engage on and be practical and be scientific on it. And where we and be honest to each other, this one is not practical, this one is practical. And how do you then balance and the needs of the people that are unemployed and economically not active, whom would like to be active?
But Chair, you see now the importance of dealing with the problems at Prossa, because now business is relying only on freight. Or mostly on freight to take things around for trade, and it's because of the mishappenings of Prossa and Parliament. People like yourselves in your position being accused by the Zondo Commission to have not actually practiced fully your oversight role in issues such as Prossa.
I wouldn't necessarily make an opinion. The Commission had a right to make that opinion. However, there are systems in place in Parliament from where I'm seated. You've got the SCOPA, you've got various committees, you've got Joint Committee of Intelligence, you've got various committees. And of course, the challenges that are multi-challenges in Prossa. And we are, fortunately, just a few months back, we have been engaging on the Railway Safety Bill, which we engage all the provinces and stakeholders in terms of what needs to be done. And of course, the safety and security is the same, but not quite the same. But we are just, when we come back from recess, going to finalize that amendment bill to ensure that it takes all other issues. And of course, the issue of also bringing back the rail, as it were, in terms of its functionality. That's an issue also. We are seeing the ministry and the department must pay focus on that, because it will also offload the trucks that are on the road. You could see even the congestion if you drive, that there are more trucks now. The reason is because the goods now are being carried by the trucks instead of the also complementing each other in terms of the rail, exactly. So we are aware of that. And also the issue of the poor or relaxed oversight is a subjective matter. Okay. But what I know, in almost all the committees that some of us who have served in, we hold no punches to the ministers and the DGs, because they would have submitted their plans, we would have approved their plans, their budget. Also, they would have also set up their targets. And that's what is important. The only thing is that then the minister, if the DG and his technocrats, they don't rise to the occasion in terms of their agreed performance agreement, then they must face HR processes, as it were. And obviously the president also has signed the agreement, its performance agreement with the ministers.
Yes,
So
the
they
service
are
level
those checks and
agreements, yeah.
balances that.
All
So
right.
it's just that they need to be tightened up and be very much alive in those processes.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. Hopefully that multi-stakeholder meeting will take place quite soon with different portfolio committees and the ministers that answer to those committees. That was Transport Portfolio Committee Chairperson Mina Lesoma.